So as we do, bring our dear friend and a major contributor to the Coptic Fellowship, Alan Tutt, a frequent contributor, as I just mentioned, author of 9 books and countless audio programs on the power of belief and how to manifest your visions into reality. After losing everything, he became homeless at one time that he's touched on in previous presentations, which is what a remarkable turnaround of his life events that he has had. And you might touch on that again yet this evening and different sparkles of that. Alan discovered a method of connecting with the universal divine essence and directing divine power to turn his life around throughout all that process. And since then, he continues to research the experimentation to find better ways to help maximize results with the minimum effort for you. And he will touch on more of that tonight. Co-facilitator of our WSO program and helping us revamp it, which we're so thankful for. Alan does present What is Real with a big question mark on tonight's topic.
What is real? The idea behind tonight's talk presentation is really getting into an exploration of ideas, finding that dividing line between reality and fantasy, between truth and lies, between fact and illusion. And the main reason for looking at this topic is a very practical one. As most of you know, I am always focused on the practical application of ideas. And exploring an idea just for the sake of it, exploring an idea is not my first default. It's something that I have done. It's something I like to do. It's entertaining, it's intellectually stimulating, but I tend to prefer to focus on practical matters. So the reason for determining what's real and what's not real, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with a dozen different examples of your own, but here's the example that I wanted to start with. As many of you know, I have an online business that I started back in 2003 where I sell information on manifesting, personal development, and how to tap into metaphysical realities to alter our experience of life. And because I have this online business, through the years, I have periodically had someone come up to me and say something along the lines of, you know, I could really use some extra money. I kind of need something in the next month or so. Should I start a blog, or should I start a YouTube channel, or should I do something on Facebook? And the reason they come up to me with these questions is because it's a common idea that's been put out there, and a lot of internet marketers like me, but in a different line, have put out this idea that you can start a website in just 10 minutes. Just click a few buttons, you can have your own website. And they've also put out the idea that once you have a website, you can start making money the next day. In fact, some people say you can start making money the same day, which is theoretically possible. And then there's also this third idea that gets out there that there are people who are making millions of dollars each and every month from their websites. And so when somebody hears all three of these ideas, somehow they all get fused together into this idea of, okay, I can start a website within 10 minutes or an hour, whatever, and I can start making millions tomorrow. And it's like, sorry, that doesn't work that way. That's a complete fantasy. That's a complete illusion. It doesn't work that way. Here's the reality. And then I go on to explain that the types of businesses they're talking about are long-term businesses where they have to build it, develop a following, attract an audience, and it grows over time. And yes, it is possible to make a lot of money with some of these businesses, but not in the first couple of months. So the point being that if we are operating on incorrect information, if we are operating on a fantasy, it is very easy for us to make decisions and start a process that just isn't going to produce the results we want. And so if we want to be successful at anything in life, whether it's business, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's maintaining our health, it's always good to start with good information. It's good to start with knowing what is the reality of the situation. And so using that as an example, when I got started into metaphysics and learning how to tap into the power of the divine and how to direct my mind in such a way that certain things could change in the physical world around me, I came across a lot of different ideas. I came across ideas such as the ones that Rose was talking about, where you can use certain colors to accomplish certain goals, and that is a good and valid use of symbolism, and it's a good tool to use. There were also ideas about there are different levels of reality. There's the physical level, there's the astral level, the etheric level, and then a spiritual level, and then that's what I learned first. I learned from other people that there's many more levels than that. Some people say 7, some people say 11, some people say an infinite number of levels. There's all these different ideas out there. There's ideas that if you want to get help from the spiritual dimension, you have to call upon the angels, you have to call upon very specific spirits using their name, pronounce it exactly right, or else they might kill you. There's all these different ideas out there. So one of the basic ideas that I really want to start with here, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but the idea of physical reality itself. How does the physical reality relate to a larger reality? And there's a whole scale of ideas here. There are some people on one end of the scale that will say physical reality is the only thing that exists. Anything else is nothing but an illusion. Spirituality just doesn't exist. It's just a figment of your imagination. On the other end of the scale, there's people who will say that the physical world and the physical universe is the illusion, and it's only the spiritual reality that's real. And obviously, there's a whole range of people in between that will say that, okay, the physical world is real, the spiritual world is real, but the spiritual reality won't do anything to change the physical world. And the other side, which says that, okay, the physical world is real, but it's merely a reflection of what's happening on the spiritual dimension. Most of us kind of fit in the middle where we believe that the physical world is real, the spiritual world is real. They kind of somehow coexist and intermingle to some degree. That's where most of us believe. This is one of those ideas that I can't tell you which is true, which is real, because the idea that the physical world is nothing but an illusion, if that were true, then I could prove absolutely nothing about the physical world. I could not even prove that even I exist, because in that theory, I'm just a figment of your imagination. So what you're hearing tonight is just you talking to yourself. Or to look at it from my perspective, I'm here talking to myself and I see faces on the screen that just don't exist. So if that is true, which I can't say that it's not, and I can't say that it is, but if that is true, we can't prove anything else. So all I can do is bring up an idea. Let's talk about some of these different things that may or may not be true, and then you can decide for yourself what is true and real for you. So now it's time for me to get into some of those things I started with before. Some of those different ideas, again, going back to different levels of reality. Some of these things may in fact be true, but the question that has to be answered at some point, at least for me, is even if it is true, what practical use is knowing that information? What practical use is, what is it worth to know if there's 11 different dimensions and we're occupying dimension number 4 with space and time, or crossing into the 5th dimension with thought and creativity, 6th dimension, 7th dimension, who knows what happens on each dimension. what does it really matter if we know what happens on each dimension? What good is it to know if God created the universe in 6 days or if it happened over billions of years? Does it really matter to us in our lives today if Christ really did die on the cross, or if he, as the Coptics say, was able to control his heart rate and his metabolism to the point where he appeared dead and got out of the situation that way? Does it really matter if the mother of Christ was actually a virgin when she conceived him? Does any of that really matter to our lives today? And I would say that for the most part, it really doesn't. Again, some of these ideas are fun to explore. They're entertaining. They provide intellectual stimulation, and there's value in all of that. I mean, just in terms of entertainment alone, United States as a collective, all the people here in this country collectively spend somewhere around $140 billion a year on entertainment. So obviously entertainment does have value. And so if you get absolutely nothing more out of my presentation tonight than just a little bit of entertainment, hey, I've provided some value. Hopefully I can provide a little bit more value than that. So the bottom line is that the life we have is the life we have. As far as I am concerned, it doesn't matter if I, as a soul, consciously chose my parents or not. The parents I have are the parents I have. Whether I chose them or not really doesn't matter at this point. The life I have is whatever my life is now is what I have to work with right now. And so whatever happened in the past, whatever happens on higher levels of reality, none of that really matters to me at this point now. Now, there are some things about those higher dimensions, higher realities, colors and symbolisms that can have a practical benefit, and I will get into that here in a little bit. So, bottom line with all of that is, through a lot of the education that I put myself through in metaphysical topics, I ran across a lot of ideas that really were interesting but didn't really pan out to have a practical use. The things that did have a practical use, the things that really mattered, the foundation upon which all of the work that I do now is based, can be summed up in one phrase that Christ is quoted to have said in the Bible: according to your faith is it done to you. Whatever you believe to be true becomes true in your reality. The world around you is a mirror that reflects back to you the sum total of your beliefs. Or, as some people would say, the sum total of who you are inside. Beliefs could be described as defining who you are. And so, with this idea, with this working model of the universe, if we look at life as a reflection of who we are, that means in order to change our lives, we need to change who we are inside. If we want to experience more love, then we want to embody the essence of love within ourselves to a greater degree. If we want to experience more abundance, then we have to change our beliefs so that we believe in abundance more than poverty. If we want to experience pretty much anything else, we have to change who we are inside. And there are various ways of doing that. Those who have studied New Thought will know about affirmations. Visualization is also a popular topic that is taught quite often. The primary way that we accumulate beliefs through life is through experience. One of the working models that I have come to base a lot of my thinking on is the idea that once we're born, we are, mentally speaking, a blank slate. And then every belief that we have now were accumulated from that blank slate condition. In the very early stages of our life, as a blank slate, we have no beliefs for which the universe to reflect back to us. Therefore, at that time, our experiences are created by the people around us, our parents, our family, our teachers, the community. The beliefs that we are born into through the people that we're connected to create our early experiences. And those early experiences form our early beliefs. At this point in our lives, one of the easiest ways to change a belief so that it can be reflected in the world around us is to experience something new. Now, obviously, the best way of creating a new experience to create a new belief is to orchestrate physical events so that we can experience the thing that we want. As an example, if we want to experience greater abundance and wealth, we can take whatever little money that we have now and spend it on an extravagant vacation where we go to some exotic location, maybe Hawaii, maybe the Caribbean, who knows, whatever appeals to you, and spend a week in that environment associating with other people who are there, people who might have greater abundance than we have, associate with those people in that environment, and therefore create an experience of abundance, an experience of wealth. And that experience can help shape our belief system. Now, most of us don't want to take every last dime that we have and spend it on something quite so extravagant. Luckily, we don't have to do that. We can go with the visualization, relax, go within, imagine the experience. And if we can imagine it in enough detail, with enough vivid imagery, with all the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, the touches, everything that would be part of the emotion that would be part of that experience, and imagine it in rich, vivid detail, that can create a memory which gets stored into our subconscious. And that memory of that experience can also help shape our belief system. And so that's one of the things that I've learned can be very effective at changing our beliefs. Now, here is where we get into an interesting part of this discussion, because we have just imagined an experience and our subconscious mind is now acting on that experience as if it were real. So was that imaginary experience real, or was it just imagination? And then here's where we get into what I define as real. My definition of what is real is, does it make a difference in your life? If it makes a difference in your life, then it's real for you. If I can imagine something and that imagination changes my reality through shifting my beliefs, that imagined experience was real to me. Let me check my notes here. Okay. So, an idea that I'm starting to play with these days. This is something that I can present as new information for those who have been to my previous presentations. I have this idea about the nature of reality and the reason why changing our beliefs can change our reality. And it has to do with balance. It seems that there's this natural law of the universe where everything seeks balance. Water flows downhill because it's seeking a balance point. A ship floats on the ocean because the weight of the ship balances with the pressure of the water on the ocean. The clouds move through the sky because air pressure is stronger one place than another place, and the movement of the clouds creates balance. Storms are an experience of nature trying to rebalance things in the atmosphere. The world seems to be seeking balance on every level. My theory here is that when we change our beliefs, it's like there's this balance between beliefs and reality. We tend to believe what is real, and so there's a connection there. And if we change our beliefs, there's an imbalance there that can only be balanced out by the universe changing to match what we believe. Obviously, there's a process that happens in there, and there will be an attempt on the part of the universe to cause us to change our belief back to what it was originally, to keep that balance. When we want to change our belief system, we have to be strong. We have to persist in that and tell the universe, no, I'm not backing down from this. This is what I am creating. And eventually, the universe gives in and says, okay, I'll go with that. I'll create the balance to make that happen. So that is my theory about what is real, the ultimate nature of the universe, how life actually works. And one other thing that I want to present here is that in terms of our belief system, in terms of what do we believe is true, what do we believe is real, because it's only the beliefs that we truly believe are real and true that actually form our beliefs, our reality. We can believe all sorts of interesting things. Yeah, I believe this is possible. I believe that that could happen. I believe that aliens visited planet Earth sometime before. We can believe all sorts of interesting things. But it's the beliefs that we can say, yes, this is the way reality is. This is true. This is real. Those are the beliefs that are really going to create change in your life. And so as I told one of my coaching clients a couple of weeks ago after a session, or at the end of a session, if you really want to measure your progress on changing a belief system, ask yourself, what is the reality here? What is real? And if your answer to that is that reality is the thing that you want to manifest, you're good. You've done all the work you need to do. But if you sit down and are honest with yourself and you say, well, what is reality here? What is true? And your answer does not quite match the thing that you want to manifest, then you still have work to do. So what I am here to share with you, to discuss with you, is that there are many different ideas out there. Some ideas are useful, some ideas are not so useful. And I just realized I forgot to come back to the one thing that I mentioned before about some of those extra ideas. If we believe that certain dimensions are responsible for certain things in our life, if we believe that certain angels are eager to help us in certain areas of life, if we believe that certain colors will have a certain effect on our life, we can use all of that as a element of our visualization. We can visualize that, okay, I'm tapping into that eighth dimension to change my karma, or however you figure the different dimensions are operating. I'm going to change my karma in that situation and therefore shift the balance of my life. I'm going to apply the blue color in the situation and cause everything to go peaceful. I'm going to add red to this area of my body and stimulate the blood flow and get the energy going. We can apply any of these ideas in our visualizations as symbols, because if we believe in these things, if we believe that the universe is a particular way, or if we believe that certain things are true, then we can use that belief to help shift our other beliefs to create a new reality. Now I think I've covered everything. So thanks for being here. I hope that I've given you something interesting to think about. I hope that this sparks a good discussion. So let's see where this goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. A lot of good topics that you did touch on, and what is real. As you influence yourself in your own belief and visualizations of change in your life, how does that affect those that are around you that might be more resistant?
Well, that's another series of beliefs about what is real and what is the ultimate nature of reality. Because in the multi-world theory, or the many worlds theory, which has been described in quantum theory, quantum physics literature, there's this idea that we are all in our own universe, and that what happens in my universe doesn't necessarily happen in your universe. And so an event that I have control over in my universe can happen one way for me and a different way for you. And we see some slight suggestion that this could definitely be true, because you can have an event, an objective event that takes place at a particular time in a particular location. 5 different people can witness that event. And then the next day you ask each person what actually happened. And all 5 of them can give you a completely different story about what actually happened at that time. So there is some evidence that maybe that's true.
5 different people, different perceptions, and different beliefs.
Yep.
How to influence others is, I don't know. That's maybe they're influenced by their own selves and take what they need to hear out of what your beliefs are.
Right. And I can just give you a little bit more information with that, because that's a question that I struggled with for many, many years. I started out with the belief that, okay, everything is equal. Positive thoughts, negative thoughts, they're both equal with each other. My thoughts, someone else's thoughts, they're equal. If I'm in a situation that I'm directing my thoughts and my beliefs one way and other people are directing their thoughts and beliefs a different way, then it's like a tug of war situation, and it's like, who's stronger? And that's what's going to determine the actual outcome. And during the time that I really focused in on that belief, that working model of the universe, my results were hit and miss, especially when other people were concerned. When I finally understood the nature of beliefs upon beliefs, which could be called meta beliefs or master beliefs, there's a couple different words, phrases that we could use to describe that. Once I discovered that my beliefs about beliefs influenced my use of beliefs, I decided to change my belief about who is more powerful in a situation. And I started to come to this idea of the many world theory, that I am the only thinker in my universe. I am the only one in control of my life. No one else has any control over my life whatsoever. They may think they do. They may imagine they do. They're in their own universe. I'm in mine. I am the only thinker in my universe. And since I started thinking that way, I've had a lot more success in getting the outcomes I want when involved in a situation that involves other people. So whether I'm actually overpowering them and causing them to go along with me, I don't know. Maybe we are in separate worlds and they're experiencing a completely different outcome. I don't know. I can't prove anything. It's an interesting idea to consider, though.
And
This explains what's happening in our country right now. I had heard that Donald Trump used to go to Eric Butterworth's church and listen to his messages, and projecting what you believe, making those statements and visualizing them is one of the messages that Eric Butterworth would have preached. And so we have a nation that believes what some people are calling the big lie. And we have another group of people who do not believe the big lie. So the visualization got him into a position of being the president. And now he's trying to continue that. And I think it's a demonstration of this 2 different worlds that we're in. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying this is what has occurred. It's working.
Yeah, and that idea you just brought up about right and wrong, which also ties in with the idea of good and evil. That's another one of those ideas that I struggled with for a lot of years, because my upbringing was that right is right, wrong is wrong. You've got to go with the right and go with the good. And that's how I believed for many, many years. And then I kept running into this idea that there is no good and evil. There's only what is. And I fought against that for years and years. And it's like, no, 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 that can't possibly be true. And then finally, I started looking at things and saying, well, the things that I think are wrong, the things that I think are bad, can sometimes have positive outcomes, can have positive results. So maybe that's true. And that's kind of where I'm at these days, is that there is no good and evil. There's only what is. There's enjoyable and not enjoyable. There's desirable and undesirable from my perspective or from your perspective. We each have the things that we like. We each have things that we don't like. We can call them good and evil if we want to, but maybe from the divine perspective, it's all good.
But my universe and your universe may be totally different, even though we're
Yep.
walking on the same earth.
Yep, that's all possible.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, I definitely feel like, first thing I just want to say, Alan, I love your talks. They are always very interesting. You deliver them in such an interesting way, and they're very thought-provoking. And I usually find that my thoughts are pretty much along the same as yours. But I definitely agree with the whole idea about our thoughts create our world. And I like that theory about the mini universe, because I oftentimes think about all of the terrible turmoil that's going on the planet right now, and yet my world is peaceful. And I don't think it's because I'm ignoring the reality of the war and just all the things that are in the news, the guns and the abortion and just all of this stuff. But yet I find that my own world generally is peaceful, because I think I just create that. I think it's not because I'm ignoring what's going on in the world. But I love the theory about the mini universe, that we create our own. And yet I do feel like other people, I think there is a mass consciousness, and I'm not sure exactly what effect that has. But I do think that there is something to do with the mass consciousness. I think if we want a peaceful world, we have to be peaceful. If we want love in our life, we have to be loving. That thought, I think, is really important. And the idea about the pendulum swinging in different ways. I do think things do try to reach that balance point. There is a group of people that study the writings of Walter and Leo Russell, and that's based a lot of it on the idea of the seesaw effect and the pendulum. And Walter Russell believed that center, the fulcrum, that was where God was. And there's all sides of the coin, and there's all sides of things going on, and things want to swing in different ways. But when we can find that balance, that's really God. That's the center and the fulcrum point. But anyway, this has been interesting. I sometimes, when I see turmoil going on in the world, I just try to realize that I can create my own peace. And whatever crosses my path today is mine to do. The people that pass my life, or the inner guidance I have of what I should do today, if I just follow that, then basically I think I stay pretty peaceful. And again, I agree with that, where we have our faith. And if one day I feel like rocks are going to help me, I hold my amethyst, and that makes me feel better. If I feel like the angels are out in my prayer garden, then I go to my prayer garden. And I think all of those, whatever I have created in my own mind as to what helps me on a given day, I think that that's good. I think that we all have different belief systems, and I think they work for us.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate everything that you've said, and the idea of the pendulum and things going in cycles and going from one extreme to the other and back and forth. That's an example of a greater reality that we actually can put to practical use, because if we know that things are moving in a particular direction, it's going to be a lot easier to move in that same direction than to try to fight against it. Because if we know that the cycles keep going back and forth, we can always wait until the next round of the cycle to go back the other way. So I definitely like that you brought that up. Thank you.
I want to ask you a question, Alan, and this is just to get you to sort of talk more about all your ideas. So what is the opposite, as far as you're concerned? What is the opposite of real?
For me, the opposite of real is essentially fantasy, imagination, imagination or an intellectual pursuit that really has no payoff other than the intellectual stimulation or the entertainment value. I mean, everything has at least that much value, and so it has value in that regard. But for me, something that doesn't really match up with experience, and that has a very low likelihood of ever matching up with experience. There are a few examples that I did think about bringing up. I mean, the internet example I brought up at the beginning of the talk here, but there was this other idea. Going back to what Paula said, she likes how I put my talks together. There's this illusion that some people have, and obviously you know differently, but there's this illusion that some people have that giving a talk is really just sitting down with an idea and just talking it out in front of an audience. But for me, it takes me about 2 days to prepare a half-hour talk. So there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And then even then, there's some practice involved in, okay, how do I want to say this? How do I transition from this idea to that idea? And as you probably notice, even with 2 days of prep work, there's still points within the talk that's like, okay, where was I going to go? What was I going to do? Oh, I got myself off track. I mean, there's that kind of thing. There's this, let's see. There was a friend that we had who, and I'm not going to mention a name, but this person reminded me of myself when I was younger, because I was very much a dreamer. And a dreamer in a way that didn't really produce any good results. It's like, oh, I'd love to do this. And it's like, the idea behind that is there's no work involved. You just go out and do it. You go out and you dance, or you go off and you're going to be a speaker on a cruise ship, or there's a lot of other ideas that, oh, it's just so easy. It's just going to be so much fun. Go house sitting for people. And this friend of ours found out that these things are not as easy as what they thought it was going to be, and it does take work. So as far as the opposite of real, misleading, I guess, is probably the best word for an idea that doesn't lead in a productive way. I guess probably the best way. Now that I'm talking it out, I'm kind of realizing that based off of what I said earlier, pretty much everything can be considered real one way or another. So hopefully that answers something for you.
Alan,
Yes.
this is John talking here. I found a long time ago a science. The science is numerology. And every person on the planet was given a name and born on a certain day. And that is a science. And I've done thousands of numerology readings, and no one's ever said, this is a bunch of bunk, you were wrong, it didn't hit the mark. So somehow on the other side, we were given a name. We chose a date of birth. We were shown what our destiny would be. And therefore, if we follow that road, then we can find out who we are. So it started before we were born, because we were in a place, we call it heaven, call it the inner planes, whatever it is. We go to heaven when we pass away. Then we go through a review of our life. And then we come back to get to the point where we have mastered this science. So we've been given many, by the way, I love your talk. We've been given many ways, different ways. But when one stands out, and we have many counselors in this tonight, and they have their skills. And if you are drawn to somebody, I believe that is the point, a step in our life to fulfill our destiny. So we have a choice of coming back to earth, not having to come back to earth because we have not completed diet, meditation, exercise, self-mastery, serving people. Who can I help today? All those things we learn, and then we put them into action, and they work. And everybody here is successful in some way. You're all wonderful people. So how you have chosen and how you have accomplished, you have touched a lot of lives, whether it be in your family, your friends, neighbors, whatever it is. You have changed lives. And that's why we're here. That's why we're in an organization called Coptic, which teaches us how to be teachers. And we go out in the world, and then we empower this person who goes out and helps, and therefore we have a better world. So that's how I feel.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I would like to say that for something to become real is that it has to be something that meets with your ideal too. If you live in this life believing in a certain way of living, it cannot be a selfish kind of thing that you're acting on. It has to be something that's a loving service, I would think, for it to become real. If I try to do something that's going to be harmful, I don't think it would happen. I think it really has to be, it has to fit within my belief system, which is that we're all here to serve. We're here. Our one commandment from Jesus was to love one another. And that's what the Coptics are about, is serving and loving. And in this we create. But I can't imagine creating something that's the opposite of that in my life anyway. Maybe somebody else can, but not me.
Yeah, the New Thought movement has this idea that truth with a capital T, the only things that are true are the things that are good, positive, loving, joyful, and beneficial. And that anything other than these cannot be truth with a capital T. They may be a fact of reality, but they're not truth. So I think you're kind of flowing along that same line.
You were saying, though, that you found that isn't really necessary. Wasn't that something that you said in your talk, that sometimes things that appear not to be might really have a good result, that there might be a reason for something that doesn't look.
Yeah, there's so many different consequences of one event leading to another, leading to another, leading to another, that as human beings, we don't know where everything is going to end up. We know what's happening now. We know what maybe the next step is going to be, and maybe the step after that. But as far as where all of this is going to lead over the next 100 years, the next 500 years, we don't know. And there may be certain aspects that are happening now that we think are bad, negative, harmful, that may actually snowball into something else that is very beneficial down the road. I don't know. I'm not going to pass judgment on it, so just go with what is.
Judge not.
Yep.
Okay.
There's something very much along the same lines that we've been discussing with the mass consciousness, with a new thought with a capital T. I would even like to say, no, I think it's even merged even more, or maybe morphed into the greater good. Capital G's, you know, and that's very much probably another talk for you, Alan. So I'll leave that with you. God bless.
I have a feeling that you're probably a better one to speak on that one than I am.
With grace and ease, there we go. Thank you.
Well, thank everyone.
The idea about new thought, thinking that what is real or what is true has to be peaceful and joyful. I think that's a good example of our changing, what's real changing, and our thoughts creating our world. And the example I can think of in my own life recently is that I had to have some dental work done, and I had some done by this specialist. I forget what the kind of dentist it was called, but about 5 years ago. And I had a panic attack. And so I had to leave his office, and I couldn't have him complete the work. And later on, I went back and I got through it. So 5 years passed. Well, I need more dental work done. So they sent me back to the same dental specialist. And my first reaction was, oh no, I didn't like this man. And that was a terrible thing. And I can't believe I'm going to have to go through this again. So it took a month before I could get an appointment with him. Well, meanwhile, I had a month to work on myself. And so I was listening to the things that people were presenting in the Coptic Center, and I was doing my own reading and thinking, and I thought, okay, I can change this experience. And if I resist, it's going to persist. So I thought, okay, I've got to remember that this dentist is there to help me. And I got through it before, and I've got people praying for me. And I read all the things I could find. I ordered a book from the Coptic Center with Hamid Bey and fear was one of the topics in the book. So anyway, I had a long time to prepare myself. And I walked into that dental appointment with the idea that this man was going to help me. And you know what? He was there to help me. And I really liked him. He was great. And I had to return a couple of times to him, and both times I got through it well. And I don't know why I didn't like him in the first place 5 years ago, but I surely did like him now. And anyway, I just totally changed the whole experience. So what was real? What was the reality that the man was not a good dentist and it was a terrible experience? Or was the reality that he was there to help me and I was going to get through it just fine. So anyway, I changed the reality.
Sounds great. Thanks. Just in case anybody wants to get more information of the stuff that I teach, I got my website, which is membership based right now. Anybody who joins the website gets access to everything that I've ever done, which right now there's 11 different courses posted on the website. There's a variety of guided meditations, hypnosis sessions, background recordings, which I call the not so subliminal variety. It's something that can be subliminal if you're playing in the background, but if you sit and listen to it, you can actually hear what's being said. So a lot of different material that I've created since 2003, all for one relatively low price. So just wanted to invite everyone for that.
Great. Thanks a lot, Alan. Wonderful
Yes, thank
sharing
you.
of topics and thoughts and what is real.